I've been climbing trees for as long as I can remember. I'm 45 now, and I think I enjoy it as much as I ever have. We used to have this little sugar maple in our front yard. When I say little, I mean little. Like, it never got bigger than maybe 10 or 12 feet. And that was my starter tree. That was the first tree I ever climbed. And you really couldn't get much higher in it than about 6 feet just because of how small it was. But I used to climb that tree as often as I could when I was little. And then when I got big enough, I graduated to the big pine tree in our backyard. And it was a lot like this tree that I'm in now. It was big and tall and full of branches. You can climb it a dozen different ways. You could have a nice, easy climb if that's what you wanted, or you could have a more challenging one. It really just depended on what route you took. I must have climbed that tree 1,000 times in my life. I can't even guess at what the actual count would be, but it's high. I could climb it blindfolded. And that's not just me speaking rhetorically to put over, how well I knew the tree. I literally climbed it blindfolded, all the way up and all the way down, without falling. Successfully, I climbed it blindfolded. That's how well I knew it. Every branch, every step. I climbed it at night. I did that many times. Never fell. Sometimes I'd be up in it like this, and I would look out and down, and I would look through its branches as they fanned out underneath me. And I would imagine jumping off, falling into the branches. And I always imagined it would catch me. And I never tested that. I, I had enough sense in my head that I never actually did that. But I always imagined that if I did, that tree would never let me fall. Climbing trees is something that I intend to do until I can't do it anymore, until I'm physically unable to do it. And when that day comes, as I'm sure it will at some point, and I have to face the fact that I just can't climb trees like this anymore, I'm really going to miss it. Because it's a nice thing to be able to do, and it's something that I've always been able to do when I wanted to. When I was a kid growing up in my childhood home, all I had to do was walk out the door and down into the backyard, and I could climb my great big tree. If I was bored, if I was sad, if I couldn't think of anything else to do, as long as the weather was nice, I could always go climb my tree. It was always there for me. And it's nice to have the option to climb a tree when you just want to get away from everything else, you know? Especially with the state that the world is in. And I know the world is always in a state, and at any given time, you may feel overwhelmed by something and want to just climb a tree and forget about everything for a while. But it feels like, especially in this current moment that we're all living in, we feel like we need to get away. We feel like we need to separate ourselves from everything else and recharge our body, recharge our spirit. And climbing trees is a really good way to do that. Something magic happens when you climb a tree. Somehow it simultaneously connects you to the world around you, and it also cuts you off from it. And it does both of those things in really pleasing, reassuring, comforting ways. Like I said, the tree I used to climb was in my backyard, but I no longer live in my childhood home. And to get to this tree that I climbed today, I had to drive a little ways. Unfortunately, where I live now, there aren't a lot of really good climbing trees within walking distance. And to get to this tree that I climbed today, I had to drive past quite a few houses with Trump signs in the yard, flying Trump flags from their front porches. And that's a reminder of the fact that where I live, where I'm from, my point of view, my political philosophy is very much in the minority. It's not that I'm the only one who feels the way I feel and thinks the way I do about things. I'm not. There are a lot of like minded people around here, but they are very much the minority, and they are much more difficult to see and to hear. So, driving around this area, seeing all those Trump flags, that's very alienating. Makes me feel like I'm from here. I grew up here. I'm just as much a part of this place as anyone else. But there's something about it that feels wrong, that feels like, in a very important way, I'm not of this place. But when you climb a tree, you're connected to everything. When you climb a tree, you're in contact with the tree at all times. Your safety depends on that. And then the tree is connected to the ground, and through that, to everything else. In that sense, you're more connected to Earth, to the world, in a physical way than you are most other times. And you're connected in other ways too. Just as I've been sitting here talking to you, there are ants crawling up and down the trunk. There are other kinds of insects. I passed a couple of spider webs on the way up here, and I had to alter my route to make sure I didn't disturb them. You're connected to nature in a way that you're usually not. And that can be reassuring when you're in that headspace where you feel disconnected from things. You feel alienated, but you want that connection. Here it is. And yet at the same time, you're disconnected in a way. You're above everything. You're not down in the fray in the middle of whatever's going on down there. You're separated. You're up higher. You've lifted yourself up out of whatever's going on down there that you want to get away from. You're in your own world. That's what I used to love about climbing trees when I was a kid. You could climb up to the tree, climb up to the very top, and stay there as long as you wanted until you got hungry or it started to get dark or you just got tired of being there, and then you decided to climb down. But while you're up there, while you're up here, it's your own world. It's just you. Unless you climb with a friend, and that's the other nice thing about climbing trees. If you want to share it with someone, if you want to climb with someone, as long as the tree's big enough, you can share the experience. You can climb with people. And that's a lovely, wonderful thing to do. But if you want to get away from everything, there are very few better ways to do it that I have found than climbing a tree. But of course, that separation is still kind of an illusion, isn't it? I mean, like I said, there are two things happening at once. You're lifted above everything. You feel like you're in your own world. You can imagine that you're in your own world very easily, but the truth is, you haven't really gotten away. You just feel like you have. You've given yourself a little vacation, a little respite. But eventually, you're going to have to go back down. It doesn't last forever. Even animals that live in trees don't stay in trees 100% of the time. So as nice as it is, and as rejuvenating as it is, and as fun as it is, and it is so much fun to climb trees, eventually, you're going to have to climb down. But it is sure nice up here while it lasts.